Hello, my name is Boris. I wanted to make this YouTube video. I used to have tinnitus for 10 years and I got rid of it now, and I thought it might be valuable to share my solution and the way I figured it out, so it might help you guys. First of all, I'm not a YouTuber, so sorry already for the shitty graphics. And I'm neither a doctor, so do your own research. And this is just maybe it helps you. So first, I tell you a little bit about my tinnitus. Then I tell you about the information that I learned. I talk a little bit about stress, and in the end, I give you some practical tips to check how you might get rid of it. So I got tinnitus when I was about 15 year old. I went to a concert and then I got it really loud, and it stayed for a year. And in the years afterward, it came back all the time, and it started usually with a loud sound. So after a concert or after driving my motorcycle. And at some point, I went to an ear specialist, and I want to share with you guys what the ear specialist told me. And here I combine a little bit of the information he told me with the information I found on the internet. So he told me there are three main sources that can cause tinnitus. And this is also from a research from René van der Wilk, a Dutch professor. So it can be first of all caused by hearing loss. This is something you might have heard before. There's a nerve in your ear that's harmed, for example, by loud noise, and therefore it gives a wrong signal to your brain, and you hear a ringing sound. This is one that's a bit harder to solve, but there might be also solutions for that one. Another cause might be mental issues. With hearing loss, you might think like the sensor in your ear is broken or something's wrong with that. And with mental issues, you might think like the receptor or the processor in your brain is malfunctioning. So something is wrong in your brain. That's the mental issues. And the third one is physical issues. This is a bit different than the hearing loss issues. It might be something in your diet that's wrong, or your bone structure, or you might have a glue ear, or a wrong tension or your eardrum. This might also cause tinnitus. But what is very interesting about this diagram is that it's a Venn diagram. And this means that tinnitus is most of the time not caused by only one of these issues. It might be caused by hearing loss, but in combination with, for example, mental issues. So you might have a very soft ringing in your ear because of hearing loss. It might get way louder because you'll also have mental issues and physical issues. So most of the time, it's a combination of things. And in some cases, even if you solve, let's say, the mental issues, the tinnitus might go away or at least get very much softer. So this is actually very good news, because if you have damaged hair cells, which is harder to solve, there might be a way to make the ringing softer, or maybe even go away by solving mental or physical issues. Well, the doctor told me this, but I was sure I had only the hearing loss, because for me, tinnitus always starts with a loud noise. So after a concert, motor, etc. Then the doctor talked to me, and he told me that if hearing loss is not the main origin of the tinnitus, it's usually caused by stress. And this is because stress causes mental issues and physical issues. And I was a little bit skeptic about that, because how can stress make a ringing sound in your ear? But then I started looking up information about stress, and I found interesting things. And also from my own experience, I noticed a bit. Stress is actually really powerful, more powerful than you think. For example, stress can cause, to some people, visual effects, a little bit like they're on drugs. Some people get memory loss from stress. This happens. And some people actually get hearing loss by stress. So, what does stress do for tinnitus? It does affect tinnitus in three ways. And the first of them is it messes with your brain. Well, how the brain makes sense of sounds is very complex. And even the ear specialist couldn't tell me much about it. So you get a sound in your ear, and your ear sends a signal by a nerve to your brain. And somehow the brain filters out all the signals that are not important, and it makes sense of the signal. We know words, We know what these words mean, and well, these processes are complex and they make sense of the sound. We know that if there's a lot of stress, these processes can be malfunctioning a little, and this might cause a ringing sound in your ear. Another thing stress does, it makes it possible to hyperfocus. And if you hyperfocus on something, this thing might become really big. And it might happen actually. For example, if you think of holding a glass and you really focus on not letting it fall down on the ground, it might fall down. But the same thing is happening with the ringing in your ear. If you really focus on the sound, it might get quite a bit louder. And another thing stress does, of course, it's make your muscles a bit more tense, which in case of tinnitus, if you have a lot of tense muscles, it might change the tension or your eardrum, and therefore some nerves might get in a weird position, and this might cause a ringing signal to your brain. So this is what stress could do. And what was the interesting thing? I did a hearing test with my doctor, and he showed me the results. Well, the results showed that my hearing was actually very good. It was better than the benchmark, even. He told me that because my hearing was so good, it was impossible that I had damage on my nerves. And this was really weird for me because I knew it always started with a loud sound. And he explained to me that a loud sound, for example, if something falls on the ground, it sounds louder for me, or if a car drives by really loud, it sounds louder because my hearing is quite sensitive because it's so good. And this might increase stress and therefore the ringing sound. I was a bit skeptical, but I also believed it with some part. And the interesting thing was, in 2 or 3 days after the meeting, I suddenly realized that the tinnitus in my ear, after years, it was gone. So my stress decreased, and I realized that helped me get rid of the tinnitus. So it was actually quite miraculous for me because I really was sure it was a hearing loss problem, but it wasn't. And it's also good hope, maybe if you think the same, because maybe it isn't. So that's actually very interesting, because now we know a few things. First of all, we know that tinnitus is not caused by solely one factor. It's a combination of hearing loss, let's say damaged hair cells in your ear, with physical problems and mental problems. So if we can decrease mental problems or physical problems, the volume of the tinnitus might get lower. And we know now that stress can cause physical problems and mental problems. So, if we can decrease the stress, we might be able to decrease the volume of the tinnitus in our ear, or maybe make it even go away totally, like in my case. And the next chapter is about helping you guys with that. I tell a bit about how stress works. It works in cycles, and how to break these cycles and get less stress and therefore lower the volume of the tinnitus in your ear. So stress usually works in a cycle. So it's a negative spiral. You do something, it makes more stress, and it makes you do something more. Let me give you an example with the tinnitus. So if you're stressed, the brain processes get disturbed, and well, this makes a ringing sound in your ear. And this sound in your ear makes you stress more, which makes the brain's processes even work less. And this continues and makes the sound all the time louder and makes you all the time more stressed. And how to break this cycle? Well, you have to stress less. And how can you do this? If you, for example, like me, at some point believe that stress is part of the cause of the tinnitus in your ear, you can get a bit more relaxed because you now know there is a solution to the tinnitus, or at least a solution to part of it. You know it's not an eternal problem, and the sound in your ear might go away or might become softer at least if you stop stressing so much about it. And then it becomes a self fulfilling prophecy because you're less stressed, your brain starts working better, and the tinnitus fades. It's a pretty tough one, of course, because you really have to believe in it to make it work, but it's something you can try. For the hyperfocus, it's kind of the same thing. So if you're really stressed, you hyper focus, the sound gets louder in your perception, and this makes you more stressed, which makes the sound even louder. So you can try to just focus on something else. Easier said than done, but that might work. And the last one is maybe the easiest one to fix. If it's like a physical problem, it's because you have tense muscles. And well, for this, you only have to relax your muscles. And this might give you an indication that it's not an eternal problem and it might be solvable. And there's a really good massage I found on the internet. It worked for me quite a bit. You can check it out. I put the link down this video. If you see the video, there are a lot of people who did the massage and they relaxed their muscles, and they first hear silence after years, and it's quite amazing what they respond on the video. So check it out for sure. So you might still be convinced that stress is not the problem for you, like I was. But if you know stress is partly the cause, it might help you to relax. So I give you now some tips or some things that I noticed by myself that if I noticed them earlier, I could have known that stress might be part of the problem. Here they are. The first one is, well, really easy. You can just check, is the tinnitus louder when I'm stressed? Or, for example, when you're working and it's a very busy period, is this ringing louder than when you're on a holiday? If it's the case, then you know stress might make it louder. Another thing is the hyperfocus. Do you notice that when you really focus on the ringing, that it gets louder, or at least in your perception? You can do the massage I talked about, and then you know it might be partly physical. And this is an interesting one. Maybe it's you can plop your ear. Well, it's something I noticed with myself. I had the ringing mostly in this ear, and if I put my finger in my ear and I moved it up, like in the hole, and I moved it up here, it was very smooth. And if I did it here, I could kind of plop it, like it made a little sound, and that made me realize actually that I always had a tension here, which was also the ringing sound. And if I focus on the ringing, it even got more tense. Another thing I could do was if I put my finger in your ear. Yeah, you do a lot of weird stuff when you have the ringing trying to solve it. I could change the frequency a little bit. So if I sometimes if I put my finger in and I moved it a bit, I could change the well, it might be a higher tone or a lower tone. So that happened, and I think that is because you change the pressure on your eardrum, and therefore some nerves get well in a wrong position, creating a ringing sound. So that might also be the case. And the last thing that I noticed was when I just closed my ears totally and focused on the tinnitus, and I usually hear like multiple frequencies, so higher, a bit lower, low. If I focused on one of them and I really focused on it, I could make it go away. It disappeared a bit. And then I could focus on another one and that one disappeared a bit. So maybe if you have that too, you have the same as me. Well, this is all I have to tell about tinnitus. I wish you good luck with it, and so there might be hope. And well, good luck with this, and have a good time. Bye. Ciao.